Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Axel Disasi could be reintegrated into Chelsea's first team. A Chelsea transfer target has gone top of the wish list for the January window, and Chelsea are preparing a pre-contractual agreement for Mike Maignan. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 15k by the end of the season. You can also use the new YouTube hype feature, which pushes this video out to a bigger audience. Kicking things off, Dario Essugo posted these pictures on his Instagram. I just want to speak about this just for a second because they're getting a window into his road to recovery. It looks like he's doing a lot of sprint training now, back on the weights, and he posted this message about, if you were 30 failures away from your goal, how fast would you want to fall and things like that. Very inspirational stuff, and I'm super happy that his road to recovery looks like it is going on track. There's been no official sort of dates or times for him returning other than the barriers of potentially end of December, start of January, which makes a lot of sense. Going through a surgery, having a lot of road to recovery, you got to make sure everything goes right, and we don't want to be rushing him. But these are really good pictures from him to showcase that he is doing sprint training. He's on the grass. He's not in full training with the team at the moment. But this is a really positive step forward because coming into that period of the season around, December, going into January, obviously we have a little bit of a break from the Champions League, etc. But we have a lot of cup competitions, Carabao Cup and the FA Cup starts to really ramp up around then. Having someone like Essugo back ready and fully fit to give cover to Caicedo or other players in that midfield just gives Maresca a lot more options. And I really rate Essugo. We've only seen him in very limited minutes, but he already looks like a fantastic player. A like for Moises Caicedo. And another defensive option in that midfield who can recover the ball, pass the ball on and just do the simple things of the game. And I know that Caicedo does a lot more than that, but that's what we've kind of seen from Essugo so far. It is just really good to see Dario Essugo on the road to recovery. There were pictures emerging yesterday that Axel Disasi was spotted in first team training. Bobby Vincent has reported that Chelsea are planning on reintegrating Axel Disasi back into the first team squad over time, with the out-of-favour Frenchman impressing behind the scenes this season. And Sky Carver have reported that Disasi is now likely to be reintegrated into the first team squad, though he is still expected to leave the club in January. Now, I find this very, very interesting, and I've made my thoughts and feelings very public on this channel around Axel Disasi. I'm not a massive fan of him. I think milk turns quicker than that guy, but I also understand that the time that he was playing that Chelsea squad was very, very different. Very different systems. He was mainly played as a right back out of position. We know that he is a central centre back, and maybe I was a little bit harsh on him. I still am in the position where, or in the camp where I need to be proven wrong, but I'm actually more than willing to give him a chance if he's being reintegrated, and I'll tell you why. A lot of people want him gone. I understand that. He is very clearly the top of the list to be leaving in January, along with Raheem Sterling, because of the whole PFA thing. They were trying to get moves away in the summer. They were turning down a lot of moves as Chelsea were trying to offload them. But one thing I really respect about Axel Disasi is, one, he has never complained about his situation. Two, he's put his head down and worked his socks off. And I respect that. He has been pushing his way back into the first team to prove to Maresca that I can be an asset to you. I can play first team football. It's been a long, long time since he's played any first team regular football or even just first team football as a whole. Now, the caveat to this is we saw a similar thing last season with Ben Chilwell. This doesn't automatically mean that just because we've seen him in training during the international break where he's not been called up with the first team members who haven't been called up to international break, that he's automatically going to start the next game and he's going to get a string of games at centre-back or even at right-back. Hopefully it would be centre-back if he was to play at least. It doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen because the same thing happened with Ben Chilwell and we didn't see, I think we got 45 minutes under Maresca at one point. Like, it's something silly like that. If that, it might have even been the season before. I don't know, because Ben Chilwell's Chelsea career after Thomas Tuchel has been very, very rocky. And obviously now he's at Strasbourg, etc. So I'm very curious to see what happens. And like I said, I will always respect the person who is going to put their head down and work harder than everyone and try and prove a point. I just feel like you can't knock that trait in a person. If you are willing to outwork everyone and prove everyone wrong, I respect that. Regardless of whether I agree with them or not, the work rate, the hustle, I really do respect it. So if Axel Disasi does now earn his chance to be back in the first team squad and just sit on the bench and maybe get some minutes as a cameo or even maybe get some game time, more than 10, 15 minutes off the bench, I would be very surprised that he's playing for the first team, but I would also massively respect the hard work he's put in behind the scenes to earn that right. and to prove Enzo Maresca wrong, because he seems to be very ruthless in terms of the people or the players that he wants part of his project and the players he doesn't want. And we have the whole bomb squad, which I really don't like using, but for lack of a better phrase, we sold a lot of those in the summer window. Now, there was a lot of question marks around Disasi, Sterling, and Badiashile. Now, Badiashile was kept, he was injured, we weren't going to sell him, and now people are starting to see from the cameo that he made, actually, he could be very useful in an Enzo Maresca system when needed on that left-hand side. For Axel Disasi, we saw him playing in the under-21s recently, which obviously brought out the headlines and the reports of that. We saw him a lot leaner. He looks like he's a lot leaner than what he was when he first started playing for Chelsea. He's digging a new haircut. He looks like he was given a lot of advice to the youngsters and was trying to be a leader for the under-21s. These are the assets and these are the sort of fundamentals of a personality and the character you want in a professional footballer. And 100% respect and agree with what he's doing. I absolutely rate it, and I would not be mad to give him another opportunity based on what he has been doing behind the scenes, because you can't knock it, in my opinion. And it'll be very interesting if he manages to fight his way back into the first team and starts putting on really good performances. Look, I'll hold my hands up and say, look, I got you 100% wrong. Because there's little things he posts on his socials about him working hard and not giving up and having that motivation. But he's actually backing that with the Chelsea, behind the scenes at Chelsea. Now he's getting that first team training again. So he's slowly edging his way in. And look, I will respect it if he makes it to the first team pitch and gets minutes. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Axel Disasi. Would you give him another chance because he's been doing all this graft behind the scenes, helping with the under-21s and just showcasing that he wants to be part of that Chelsea team? He's turned away deals in the summer. I know that obviously they're saying he's got an individual coach to try and get a move away in January. Sky Carver said that it's likely he's going to go in January. But the bit that doesn't add up for me is if they're going to slowly reintegrate him, but January is just around the corner. Who knows? Is this a redemption arc for Axel Disasi, or would you just forget all of the hard work he's put in and just sell him in January because his stocks are potentially going up? Mr. Dom Smith has reported that Shim Mheuka is continuing to shine for club and country as he pushes for more first-team opportunities. In his last 8 games for club and country, he scored 10 goals and 3 assists. He is arguably the most informed player at the club at any level right now. Now, I just want to kind of put this in there while we're talking about behind the scenes, the under-21s and the training side of things. This kid is awesome. He got very limited opportunities last season, but happy for him. I think he played in the Conference League, and you could tell he's hungry. He wants these first-team opportunities. So I just wanted to have a conversation with you guys, just very briefly, on Shim Mheuka. Now, I've watched more and more of him the more that he's been developing, and he looks so good. But I'm trying to work out the pathway for him to break into that Chelsea first team. Because at the moment, in that 9 position, we have Delap, who was injured for a long time. Obviously, had Mark Guiu, who was on loan, wasn't used for a while because Maresca was like, you're not quite where we need you to be. Work harder, then you get your chance, and now he is. João Pedro can play as a 9 and a 10. And I'm thinking, Maresca loves the academy players. He loves Walsh. He loves Mheuka. He loves a lot of Ashampong, for example. He rates his academy players so highly, and he does like to give them opportunities. Is there an opportunity this season for Mheuka to be playing, or are we at a stage now where he really has to do something incredibly outrageous to force his way in to get an opportunity? Because last season, Maresca gave him opportunities in the Conference League, and that's huge for a player of Mheuka's sort of stage of journey and development, and obviously his age. And I think he played relatively well. I think in that game he didn't get a lot of service, but you could tell he was hungry, he was pressing for the ball and really trying to get involved with play. And I rate that. 10 goals and 3 assists is awesome for a player of his standards. It's almost like GA doesn't matter really when you're below the first team, because you get some incredible... I remember back in the day where it was Solanke and Abraham had scored between 70 odd goals in a season. Yes, they eventually broke through and they made their careers, but they didn't make it at Chelsea. Abraham had that standout season and then he went abroad. And Solanke, never really got his opportunity at Chelsea, but he went to Liverpool, he's been to Spurs, etc. He went to Bournemouth. So maybe it's a case of Shim Mheuka does so well he can't break through at Chelsea because of our number 9 positioning right now that we do end up selling him on, which I'd hate to see because he is a fantastic player. But I want to know what you guys think. What would you do with Shim Mheuka? Would you give him more first-team opportunities? Do you feel like there is a place for him to be playing first-team games? Or do you feel like right now is not the right time for him to break through? What would his pathway be? Team Talk have reported that Adam Wharton is top of Chelsea's wish list for the January transfer window. Now, I don't know how reliable Team Talk are. They're sometimes on the money, sometimes not. But I thought this was a very interesting conversation and topic to be speaking with you guys on, because we spoke about Adam Wharton quite a lot on this channel with all the links and reports that Crystal Palace want like £100 million for him. happy to let him go, but they don't want to see him go for way below his market value in their sense. He's a very young midfielder. He's English. He's the heartbeat of Crystal Palace's midfield. He's a fantastic player. And Chelsea specifically have been floating around like vultures around Adam Wharton for a little while. But specifically with the position he plays, we are lacking depth because of injuries. That seems to be an ongoing thing. Lavia can't stay fit. Essugo's on his road to recovery. Caicedo gets no break whatsoever. Now, yes, we can play Gusto in that 6. We could play Reece James in that 6. We could play Josh Ashapong in that 6. You could even put Andre Santos in that 6. But they're nowhere near the standards of someone like an Adam Wharton playing a natural position than... or even having the likes of Essugo back who can play in that natural position. I'm not saying that Adam Wharton is better than Reece James, but what I am saying is in that number 6 role, he plays it better because he's built for that role. Reece James is better as a right back in my opinion, but even that right back role has changed and he does well when he comes into midfield. I'm not saying he's better than Lavia, but he's just got more availability. So it makes a lot of sense and ticks a lot of boxes in terms of why Chelsea would be interested. The only thing that's holding me back in terms of saying this is unbelievable, we need to get it over the line, is the price tag. Fabrizio Romano's come out many times and saying Chelsea are going to be very quiet in this January window. They're still monitoring market opportunities, as they always are. We're always linked with someone. It is the international break. We're linked with everyone under the sun. And Adam Wharton is one that keeps cropping up again. So I feel like there is genuine legs to this, of course. But are Chelsea willing to drop £100 million on Adam Wharton in January? I just don't see it happening because we have the UEFA regulations. We're also linked with wingers and strikers and, Endrick and Kiernan Yildiz and Mike Maignan, who we're going to speak about in a second. We're linked with so many players. Nico Paz. I think a lot of these are probably waiting for the summer because we're going to have a bit more money freed up and we can obviously assess the squad again and get rid of players who want to leave and things like that. But we're going to have to be generating some serious money to really go after these players that we're linked with, which is why a lot of people just go, this is a waffle. And I totally hear it because there's a lot of money in this. Adam Wharton, I don't think Chelsea, I think it's a wish list for a reason. Chelsea would love to see Adam Wharton in a Chelsea shirt. I would love to see Adam Wharton in a Chelsea shirt. I think he's an incredible player. I just don't think Chelsea are going to be dropping 100 M's on him. I just don't see a world where that happens because for us to spend 100 M's, we have to make 100 M's. And where are we making that money as of right now in January? Yes, we want to offload Disasi and Sterling. They're like the two at the top of the list of like almost guaranteed to be going. How much money are we going to generate out of those? Raheem Sterling, you'd be lucky to get 20 mil for him based on his contract length that's remaining, his age and things like that, and the wages he's going to want from the club that signs him, unless he's willing to take a reduction. Axel Disasi, probably looking around the same, 20, 25 million. I know he's young, I know he's got potential, he's been to Villa and played well, etc. But I don't know, 25? If we got 30 million for him, I would be laughing. That's incredible money based on the fact that he hasn't played for a while. And if you look back at the games he played prior to that, his recent form. I think that's about fair for a player like Axel Disasi, 25 million, maybe 30 at a push. Where are we going to get the other sort of 55, 50 million from? There are other players that could potentially leave. But it just doesn't make any sense to me right now if we're going to become a selling to buy club as of January and September in the summer window, purely because of the UEFA regulations. We have to be in profit across the course of the season. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens with Adam Wharton for sure. And I know that Chelsea says here it's on the wish list. So it's not like saying they're really going in for him. We know that they're circling around him. But if Palace want anywhere near £100 million for him, I just don't see it happening. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Adam Wharton. Would you like Chelsea to go sign him? Do you think it makes sense as a signing to have that person who's reliable, available, very rarely gets injured, can play that role to a very high standard, obviously young, with Premier League experience, who can only get better? Do you see Chelsea dropping 100 M's on him? How do we raise that money if you feel like we are going to go for it? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. Gazzetta dello Sport have reported that Chelsea and Bayern Munich are reportedly preparing moves to sign AC Milan goalkeeper Mike Maignan, with the London club preparing a pre-contract agreement for the Frenchman in January. This is very interesting. And I've mentioned this before when we spoke about Mike Maignan. A lot of you guys have made your thoughts and opinions very, very clear. Think he's overrated. You think Sanchez is better. And I think this is coming at a time where Sanchez is actually in a really good bit of form. And I think he has improved drastically in compared to this time last season. And I've said many times, much to a few fans' disagreement, and that's fine. That's what opinions are for. It's what conversations are about in football. I just feel like he's improved, and I don't feel anxious or nervous when he's in the sticks. I feel relatively confident. I feel more sort of anxious with the back line. Not with the fullbacks, mainly that centre-back pairing. Because if they don't turn up in a game, that's when issues are caused. A lot of the goals we conceded this season haven't been Sanchez's fault directly, and I don't think there's much he could have done of them in terms of positioning or things like that. it's mainly been, opportunities caused through defensive errors rather than Sanchez errors, like it was this time last year. We know he's a great shot stopper. Now he's allowed to go long as an option during a game. Sanchez's distribution is a lot better. I think we can all agree on that. His short play, we see him have less of the ball in short areas, and when we do, it's very limited. And I think that helps Sanchez's game. But we have been linked with Mike Maignan since the summer. We didn't want to pay the extra 3 or 4 million to get the deal over the line then. And then we came out saying that we're back in Sanchez, and it was some weird reports about how they're waiting for his brain to catch up with his ability because he'll be an unbelievable keeper. And I suppose we're slowly starting to see that this season, that he is a great keeper when his decision-making isn't so rash. When he takes a second, when he's full of confidence, he can, command that back line. He comes out and claims crosses. He's a great shot stopper. Distribution's great going long. We're just starting to see it fall into place a little bit. But Mike Maignan and Chelsea, and even Bayern Munich, and even Juventus, it hasn't gone away. It hasn't gone away. He's going on a free agent in the summer. Chelsea, by the looks of it, I know it's paper talk, but this has been highly covered by a lot of sources. There may be some legs to this, and I think there might be some legs to it from a Chelsea standpoint. Pre-contract in January, which means he'd come in the summer. And we go back to the age-old argument when it comes to the goalkeeping situation. What do? We're blocking a path for Mike Penders. Well, I think if Chelsea do go get a Mike Maignan, then either Sanchez or Jorgensen has to leave. Sanchez only stayed at Chelsea because the club have reassured him he is the number one. You're also not going to be bringing in a Mike Maignan to be number two. You're just not going to do that. He's also a leader who's very good with the ball at his feet, who has won things. He's a bit older, like Sanchez, a little bit older in the squad. He's got experience. Captain of the national side. He's a fantastic keeper, in my opinion. You could argue that he's had a dip in form recently, but I look at the AC Milan fans and the fan base and the reports that come out about Mike Maignan. He's had a great season. They love him. They don't want him to go. They want him to sign an extension. And I know that might not mean anything to you personally, but I look at that and think, wow, if he was that awful, then why were the fans begging for him to sign an extension? I don't know. I think he's a very high standard of keeper, and there's going to be a big shift around defensive and goalkeepers within the January and summer windows because a lot of contracts are being expired. Now, for Mike Maignan, he's already said he's pushing, he's determined to get that move to Chelsea. He really wants that move, and he wanted it in the summer, but it was between Milan and Chelsea that couldn't agree. If they could agree, we would have had Mike Maignan, and he would probably be number one, and he would have started as number one. And that this question I'm asking about the goalkeeper situation would have already been resolved in some way in the summer. Because like I said, Jorgensen going, that makes sense, because then you've got the space for Maignan at 1, Sanchez at 2. Sanchez has already said that the club's back to be number 1, that's why he wants to stay. He would want to go. So then you'd still have Mike Maignan as number 1, Sanchez would leave, Jorgensen would be number 2, and then you've got Mike Penders on loan. He comes back in the summer. Mike Penders is going to want to be fighting for that number 1 spot. It will be that number 2, because again, he's one for the future. Or he gets loaned out again. Who knows? They were sort of cautious to loan him out this summer because they said he's an incredibly technically gifted keeper. It's just the age that's holding them back for him to get regular starts. And fair enough. He is young. He's going to be inconsistent and make mistakes. At Strasbourg, he's doing very, very well, but there has been games where he's made a few mistakes here and there, which is normal. So I'm just very curious to know what happens with the Mike Maignan situation, because it's either we're all looking at Sanchez in terms of recent form and going, actually, he is a good keeper. Is it form or is it class? Is it going to be permanent? Is it going to be for the rest of the season? Because if it is, that asks a different question of, do we even need a new keeper? Because Sanchez has been really good this season. Is it an Edouard Mendy type of season where he's just great for one season and falls off the next? Or is it a case of, do you know what? We just needed to be a bit patient. Sanchez is the keeper for the long term. We don't need Mike Maignan. He then goes to a Bayern Munich. He will go to another top club. 100% he will get snapped up. So if Chelsea are trying to prepare a pre-contract agreement and Mike Maignan wants that Chelsea move, and there is concrete evidence, if there is concrete evidence within these reports that keep popping up, we could see Mike Maignan coming to Chelsea in the summer on a free. And, look, so a lot of you guys have explained the wages as well in the comments, and I really respect that as well. I appreciate it in terms of how it works in Italy and how it's different. It's like the tax breaks and stuff, so they end up keeping more money or lower wages, etc. And obviously what we'd need to do here in the UK, and that he apparently is asking for 160 grand a week or something like that. I don't think that's outrageous, if I'm being brutally honest, for a top keeper. But you'd be a free transfer. We're paying Tosin 120 grand a week because he's a free transfer. And if you ask me who's better between Tosin and Maignan in terms of ability, and it's a 40 grand difference, I think that's probably about right. If I was just to be rational about it, but it is a lot of money in the sense of the wage structure. But like I said, being a free transfer gives Chelsea a lot more flexibility in what they're paying him, and over the length of contract, etc. So I mean, I'd love to see Mike Maignan sign for Chelsea, I really would. But I'm also one of these people that have had my mind changed by Robert Sanchez because I absolutely wanted him out of the club last season, and I've been so frustrated with him. However, I can acknowledge, and I've noticed over a long period of time, that he's actually been very solid and getting better and better. And like I said, now, I don't feel anxious when he's between the sticks. I actually feel fairly confident. I'm like, he's a decent keeper. It's more that centre-back partnership that's kind of taken all that limelight of case of they need to be sorted, really. And it looks like we might potentially be fixing that with the likes of Chalobah and Fofana as that partnership if Fofana can stay fit. Looks like we might have that sorted as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. But this is what's being reported about Mike Maignan. So again, I'd like to know your thoughts and opinion about Mike Maignan and a pre-contract agreement for Chelsea. I know we seem to be going in circles, but things are developing slowly in terms of the situation at the club and what we're linked with in your January window. Does this make sense? I'm not talking for right now, but for the end of the season. Does this make sense? Does that sort of, have a nice break point for Sanchez to go, do you know what? This is my opportunity to go when my stocks are high and Chelsea can recover some of that money. Who knows? Is it a case of Chelsea going, right, actually, we're going to have Mike and Sanchez, we want to keep you here too. You two can fight it out for number one. Because I think that would be quite fair. And I think that would, in terms of ability, in terms of form and ability, and I'd be like, do you know what? Whoever plays, I'd be happy with. I know that they could do the job, right? But at the same time, you bring in a likes of Mike Maignan, you're going to want him as a number one. And then again, what happens with Mike Penders? Is he going another season-long loan? Or is he also in the mix? What happens to Jorgensen? Do we sell him? Because I don't think we're going to... I think we'd make a loss on Jorgensen, if I'm being brutally honest. And as much as I want to give him time, I want to see him play, I want to see him improve, he's been woeful in the opportunities he's been given. And it really doesn't fill me with confidence at all. And when you have Jorgensen and Sanchez, Sanchez is miles clear. And that's where we're seeing where Sanchez is developing, Jorgensen isn't. So, again, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Mike Maignan and Chelsea. And that's the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that, you're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.